Hello guys, how are you all doing? Welcome back to Goals Galore, welcome back to another prediction video. Once again, it's a video where it's going to split opinions. You know, some of you are going to love me because I've put your team in a position that you agree with, and some of you are going to be fuming because I've put your team in a position that you completely disagree with. But instead of ratting off at me and my ball knowledge in the comment section down below, just simply let me know your team that you support, where you think you'll finish, and why you think they'll finish there. And that's all we need. There we go. But be sure to enjoy the video. If you do, drop a like and subscribe. Sit back, relax. It's time to predict the 2024-25 Championship season. Here we go. As always, we're going to go from bottom to top, from 24th and in 24th place. It's a tricky one to predict, but I have gone for newly promoted side Oxford United, winning the playoffs last year, having beaten Bolton Wanderers in the final, under Des Buckingham, who come in midway through last season and guided them to a 5th place finish in the Championship. They have, of course, done some decent business. The likes of Jimmy coming in goal, being made a permanent deal. Kyoso's in there. Will Volk's being brought in for a bit of experience, of course. However, they have lost the likes of course, Josh Murphy, who was, incredible and got them promoted in the playoff final. His goals. It's a huge loss. They have brought in the likes of Phillips as well, Primish Lopez-Shetta, Malcolm Ebawi as well from Crystal Palace on loan. Looks a solid signing also. It's just that know-how. You know, the midfield's good. Ruben Rodriguez, Cameron Brannigan, good drums in there as well. But it seems like they're doing what, the likes of Luton did last season when they went up to the Premier League. You know, they built a good side to compete there, but probably better when they come down to, smash the league out the park. And I feel like that's sort of what Oxford are doing here. I feel like they'll definitely get points. They're not going to finish bottom by a distance like Rotherham last season. I thought they'll be competitive, but for me, I've got Oxford there. I feel like they're the weakest side in the division, but please prove me wrong, Oxford. A great stadium as well, the three stands, very unique. Cannot wait to be seeing more of that this season in the Championship. But for me, Oxford United, 24th. 23rd place, I've gone for another of the newly promoted sides. I've gone for Derby County. Now, a lot of people in their predictions are putting Derby towards the bottom for different reasons. They're looking at the manager, Paul Warne. But I do feel like that's unfair because every time he's been with Rotherham, he's not been blown away with them getting relegated. And most recently, when he was with Rotherham, they were looking really solid and they weren't actually in the bottom three. And then, of course, he did leave to go to Derby. And then someone else coming at Rotherham, of course, and kept them up. But a lot of that was down to Paul Warne putting in a lot of work at Rotherham that season. So I don't really see that point standing too much because of that final season. Listen, he's a great manager at League One level. He still has a point to prove at Championship level. That's not what the area, concerns me for Derby. It's on the pitch. They've made some good signings, the likes of Jerry Yates on loan, who, he didn't have a great season at my club, Swansea, last season, but we all know that he knows where the back of the net is. Ibu Adams in midfield is a quality signing as well. They've got some Championship experienced players in that squad, the likes of Nathaniel Mendes-Lang also in there. They've let go of the likes of Lewis Sibley. They've got Cashin at the back. But for me, there's just a bit missing there for Derby. Once again, just like Oxford, I don't think they're going to, go down by a huge amount of points difference between the sides staying up. It'll be very close this season. But for me, Derby County, they'll be going back down 23rd. Hopefully I'm proving wrong on this one though, because Derby, a great club, great fan base. I'd love to see them stay back up in the Championship when they belong. In 22nd, the final relegation spot, I've given it to Plymouth. Now, this is very close between two sides, but I have just about gone for Plymouth. Wayne Rooney just does not convince me. I'd be very surprised if he lasts the whole season. I don't remember the last time he did last the whole season. Must have been with Derby County, actually, in the season they went down. But Wayne Rooney at Birmingham last season was dreadful. You can't put it any other way. I think he'll know that as well. Now he's had a pre-season with them as well, but not really made the biggest of signings like we were expecting. The likes of Nathaniel Ogbeta come in, but, at my team Swansea was a bit of a fringe player, played at Bolton last season, was decent, but nothing incredible. They haven't made these Championship signings that we were expecting to really help them stay up. Of course, the likes of Morgan Whittaker, Ballymumba are going to be crucial this season. Michael Cooper as well in goal. Maybe he'll be leaving because a few rumours are flying about the potential exit for the goalkeeper. You know, it's a decent squad. They were to stay up last season, but for me, Wayne Rooney's just not convincing me. I feel like 22nd would be a good finish if they were able to keep Rooney for the whole season. But no, Plymouth just not filling me with confidence here. And there's still, of course, a chance that the likes of Morgan Whittaker could be sold. A lot of clubs interested around Europe. Plymouth at the moment seem like they're not going to sell. But, you know, when that valuation is met, there's not much a club can do. So if they lose him, I feel like they could finish bottom. But let's see what happens. But for me, Plymouth are going to go down. And in 21st, just about surviving. This was really close between Plymouth and this team, Blackburn, who I've got to just survive. Because in the last few days, they've just made a few signings. And I was getting very worried for them. John Eustace is a decent manager for the Championship, of course. Was able to help Blackburn stay up last season. The likes of Andreas Weimann, Kyle McFadzean have been brought in as well. A few other names as well, which are starting to form the squad. However, they look like they're going to lose Sami Smojic, the top scorer in the Championship last season. And when did a club that finished low down in the table, you know, when were they able to keep hold of the top scorer? You know, a big team's going to come in and get Smojic, I don't feel there's any way he's going to stay past the summer transfer window with Blackburn. If he does, then that's incredible, and they will stay up. But, you know, the likes of Tyree Stolen in that squad now are going to be huge. Andreas Weimann, as we've said, of course, was on loan at West Brom for the second half of last season as well. In goal, Piers isn't the most convincing. He's a solid pair of hands, but not much more than that. Of course, Danny Bath's been brought in as well. So there's players in there that you feel like might be able to just about do enough for them. Buckley's back as well, of course. But once again, it's one of those where it's going to be really close between Blackburn and Plymouth. If Plymouth had any other manager in charge, apart from Wayne Rooney, I would be putting these two sides the other way around. I'll put it that way too. So 21st, Blackburn Rovers just about surviving yet again. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is their season to finally go down. In 20th, I've got the champions of League One last season, Portsmouth. They've signed a few really good players, likes of Sam Silvera on loan from Middlesbrough. Also, they've signed Dazelle in midfield. And the biggest one for me, this is incredible, Josh Murphy. You know, relegation rivals, Oxford, their best player last season for me. And, you know, Portsmouth have just taken them off their hands like it's nothing. It's very convincing. Up top, the concern of Colby Bishop with, of course, they did a heart scan. And it's not great news for Colby Bishop, but hopefully a speedy recovery for him. And hopefully we're going to see him feature sooner rather than later in the Championship this season. A player I'm very excited of watching. But, you know, they've got a really good squad. Likes of Marlon Pack. Ogilvie, of course, if you've been on the channel for a while and you were back in the last season, you'll know it's taken me an age to learn his name. But no, Portsmouth, I do feel like they were okay this season. They'll be in a relegation battle, but they'll have enough to stay up under John Mousinho, who's a good manager as well. Just about though. Won't be that convincing, but they'll just about have enough in 20th. Into 19th, I've gone for Stoke City. They finished 17th last season, but it was not a good season. I do feel like they'll decline again this season under Steven Schumacher, who's signed the likes of Gibson and Sam Gallagher. I think that one's either meant to be confirmed very soon or has been confirmed at the time of recording. I'm not actually 100% sure, but it seems like that deal is very close to being completed. But once again, you know, those are the types of signings that, you know, bottom of the Championship signings. Stoke are a huge club. You know, there's no getting away from that. But their ambitions and the signings every year, they make decent signings, but they just cannot put it together on the pitch and throughout a whole season. I remember last summer it was very exciting for Stoke. I even backed them and they come crumbling down on me. For me, Stoke, I don't know what needs to change there, but something has to change in the next few years, because at the moment I just see them going, you know, they're going to go down to League One more likely than going back up to the Premier League, which is a real shame because they're a huge club. We want to see Stoke back in the Premier League, but for me, it's just not enough going on there for, you know, the calibre of players in that side isn't, you know, Stoke City level, and the signings they're making aren't good enough to be competing at the top end of the Championship, in my opinion. And it's really unfortunate. I really like Stoke, as you can probably tell by now, but for me, they're finishing 19th. In 18th, I've gone for Watford. They finished 15th last season. They sacked Valerian Ismail towards the end of the season, appointed Tom Clever as interim manager, and now he's got the full-time role. And that is very risky. I do not think the owners care. I mean, last season it was surprising that the owners only sacked Ismail, what was it, like March, April time? It was very late on in the season. But I think that just shows that the owners do not care one bit about Watford, which is really sad to see. Of course, they've let a few big players go as well now, not really replaced them. And for Watford, it once again, just like Stoke, these are sides that should be competing at the top end of the Championship at least, or in the Premier League, and they're closer to League One, which is a real shame. But for me, Watford, the inexperience of Cleverley really doesn't fill me with confidence. They drew so many games last season. And that was a huge reason that they finished as high up as they did. Otherwise, they could have been in some serious trouble. For me, though, Watford 18th this season. It's going to be another dark season for the Hornets. Into 17th. Now, from this point upwards, it's really difficult because there's a lot of mid-table teams who you feel like maybe they can push for the playoffs. Maybe they'll, struggle a little bit. And this is the point in the table where you get caught out at the end of the season when you're calculating your results and seeing how good you did. But in this position, I've gone for Millwall. They finished 13th last season, but the main worry for me is in the dugout. Neil Harris. Now, of course, he did a good job when he came in last season to put out the fire at Millwall and keep them up. And also, when we're on the topic of Millwall, of course, very, very sad news over the summer that goalkeeper Sarkrich unfortunately died during the summer, which of course is awful news. And Millwall really are having a tough few years, aren't they? From last year with, I think it was Yona dying as well. So it's not a good time at Millwall, but we all have our thoughts directed to them and wish them all the best, of course. But for this season, under Harris, as I say, it's looking tricky. They've got Macaulay Longstaff, who's a great player. He knows where the back of the net is at League Two. Now, of course, that's going to be a bit tricky to implement it 2 steps up at a higher level. He won't get as many chances. We'll have to be a lot more clinical, of course. But he is a good striker. Japhet Tanganga at the back as well as a solid signing, was on loan there last season. For me, though, Millwall, as I've said just now, it's going to be really tricky between filling out the spaces of these sides. I could easily be getting this one horribly wrong, and Millwall could finish in the top half. But for me, the manager is the real issue there. And for me, that's why Millwall are finishing 17th. Into 16th, I've gone for Hull City. Now, this could be a big surprise. They finished 7th last season, looked really strong. Was really impressed with them last season, in fact. But sacking Liam Rosenior after not getting into the playoffs, what are you doing, Hull? What are you doing? They've appointed now Walter, who, I can't lie, I don't know a huge amount about. A lot of Hull fans are really excited about the appointment. But for me, then, when you go onto the pitch, losing the likes of Greaves, who was in the Championship team of the season last year, was such a strong player and helped Hull get over the line on multiple occasions. Jaden Philogene, who was arguably one of their best players as well, has also left to join back up with Aston Villa this season. Incomings have been the likes of Giles from his loan move last season, has been made permanent now. Cody Dramer at right back, I think it's a really smart bit of business. But apart from that, the squad's not looking great. Ozan Tufan also left in the summer, so they need a striker. They tried to get Brandon Thompson-Sante. They missed out as Coventry hijacked the deal. Hull, I don't know. I can't see them finishing in the top half of this season, which is really sad to say because they were looking really strong last season. I like this season, they could have built on it again and maybe probably gone up to the Premier League again, which would be incredible. But for me, this season will be a big backward step for Hull, 16th. For Hull. In 15th, I've gone for Preston North End. We also associate Preston as a mid-table side, finishing around, 8th to 12th. But this season, they've had a huge departure. Alan Brown, of course, departing the club is a huge let-go for the club. And that's why I do feel like they'll slip down a few positions. They've still got a solid core of the squad, the likes of Freddie Woodman in there, of course. Emil Rees knows where the back of the net is as well. They've just signed Sam Greenwood on loan from Leeds United, which is a great signing. He was on loan at Middlesbrough last season. But for me, Preston, a big loss in midfield. I do feel like they'll slip down the table a little bit this season. I predicted it last season as well, and they finished, 10th last season. So I could be horribly wrong on this one again. It could be a blessing in disguise that Brown is gone, but for me, no, I feel like he was a crucial player in that squad. And for me, Preston slipped down a little bit, but they won't be in any fear of relegation. 15th for Preston. Into 14th place, I've gone for Cardiff City, the Swans' rivals, of course, but rivalry aside for a moment for this prediction video. Cardiff. Simply, I feel like the fans are really overhyping the squad. They've signed Chris Willock, who, yes, a few years ago he looked like a real talent in the Championship, but if he was that good, surely a Premier League club or a top-end Championship club would have picked him up by now. Callum Chambers is a good signing from Aston Villa, of course. He's never really cut it at the Premier League. He's always been a bit of a squad player, not really got many minutes, but dropping down to the Championship now. Yes, he's a decent player. Just has nightmares of Jefferson Montero, of course, from his time at Arsenal. But no, they've made a few good deals, a good bit of business. The squad is looking, decent for the Championship. A few of their fans reckon they can push for the playoffs. I do somewhat agree with that. If it all collects together, and if we see the Willock of QPR from 2-3 years ago, they're definitely onto something this season. But for me, Bullet last season and the squad, they haven't won a game, but they lost. There wasn't many draws. So I feel like if they can count as many losses as they obtained last season, then you definitely finish a little bit higher. But for me, the team that finished 12th last season will be dropping to 14th this year. Cardiff to finish 14th. Into 13th, I've gone for Sunderland. Now, last season was ugly for Sunderland, of course. Finishing 16th in the end after, of course, the season before finishing in the playoffs, which was a big drop-off last season. This season, they've made a few big changes, including in the dugout, where they've appointed, pardon my pronunciation, Reyes Lebris, who was, of course, formerly of Laurent in his first ever managerial role and only managerial role up to this point from 2022 to 2024, where he managed a 32% win rate, which isn't great at all. However, we can't really read into that too much because, of course, different league, his first ever managerial role, not too sure how Laurent were. So, a fresh start for him in English football. They have made a few good signings, the likes of Alan Brown from Preston, who was, Preston's best player for the last few seasons. Ian Poveda, who performed well out on loan last season at Sheffield Wednesday. They've kept hold so far of Jack Clark, who is one of the best wingers in the league. It's coming together for Sunderland. The only doubt in my mind is the manager now. I haven't seen his record. We have to give him a fresh start, but you can always have that in the back of your mind that he's not succeeded before, and Sunderland are taking a big gamble on him. But I'm all for it, of course. It's much like what my team Swansea did with Russell Martin, Steve Cooper, Graham Potter, of course. You've got to give these managers a chance. For me, Sunderland, a lot of their fans reckon they'll be pushing for the playoffs. They definitely have the squad to do it, but for me, I've gone for 13th. I'm not too sure on them, so I've put them in the middle of the park. I feel like that's fair. Into 12th place now, I've put QPR. Now, last season, under Marty Sheffieldwednesday, since he come in, they were really, really good, QPR, of course. However, in the summer, they've lost the likes of Ajmir Begovic, who was incredible for them in staying up last season in 18th. They've also lost, of course, Chris Willock as well on the free, which, isn't great business by QPR, but he hasn't been performing for a few seasons now, so probably didn't warrant a new deal at QPR. They've still got the likes of Elias Chair, of course, Lyndon Dykes when he comes back from injury. There's still a good squad in there. Clark Slater at the back still remains a QPR player, which is huge. The likes of Jimmy Dunn at the back as well. There's a solid squad in there. They've added to it, but the likes of Nardi, the goalkeeper, Sella, and Varane as well has come in. So it's a few exciting signings under Marty Sheffieldwednesday who grinds results out, play a really nice brand of football. I feel like QPR are on course for a really good season this year. Much higher than their 18th place finish last season. This year, slap bang in the middle, 12th place for QPR. Into 11th place then, I've gone for Sheffield Wednesday. They've got rid of some of the deadwood, the likes of Will Volks, Rhys James and Cameron Jolson, players that weren't, that important to their squad last season. Probably Volks played the most minutes out of them, if I'm right in saying. They've brought back the likes of Beadle on loan from Brighton, a great keeper. They've signed the likes of Jamal Lowe, who knows who the back of the net is. Swansea's joint top scorer last season. Of course, Max Lowe from Sheffield United. Those fans won't be too happy about that signing. Valerie as well. It's all coming together under Danny Roll, a manager that knows how to get results. He proved it last season since he come in, of course. Sheffield Wednesday were bottom by a landslide and somehow managed to keep them up in 20th place. For me, they're on course for a good season. Not quite playoff worthy for me, but solid side. They're probably lacking a few players away from being a top 6 side for me. A striker, another defender, and another quality midfielder away from being that playoff side, in my opinion. Into 10th place, I've gone for a team that finished in the playoffs last season in the Championship, West Brom. Now, the convincing thing for West Brom is the manager, Carlos Corberán. He is an expert almost at the Championship. He just cannot hack the playoffs. With West Brom last season and with Huddersfield the time before that, of course, just cannot go over the line in the playoffs. And this season, I don't think they'll get into the playoffs. They've lost quite a few big players. Financial issues off the pitch aren't helping them at all. They've lost the likes of Yakuslu, Connor Townsend to Ipswich, Brandon Thomas-Asante to playoff rivals Coventry. They have brought in the likes of Devante Cole and Paddy McNair, who I think are sensible signings. But for me, a team like West Brom, who want to be at the top end, always, it's just not enough. They've got some good players in there. Still the likes of Daryl Dyke, of course. Fellows is a strong upcoming player as well. So we'll have to wait and see. But for me, West Brom will drop off a little bit this season, unfortunately. From this point up, the team's fair now between, 9th and 7th. It's really tricky to put an order or even pick the sides to finish in these positions, because I just don't feel that confident in putting any of these sides where they are. But I've gone for it anyway. Someone has to finish in every position, of course. In 9th place, I've gone for Bristol City. It'll be a 2-place improvement on last season when they finished 11th. They've brought in some decent players, the likes of course, Max Bird, who they signed in January, then loaned back out to Derby. And now he's of course back up with Bristol City. Is a good signing in midfield, of course. They also have the likes of Fali Mayulu. I might have said that wrong, probably have, but do pardon the pronunciation there. Sinclair Armstrong's a decent signing, although it's a bit of a gamble because at QPR he was given a chance, but he's neither the best player or the worst. He's somewhere in the middle, and I read a tweet a few weeks ago saying, I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the Champions League in 5 years, or see him playing in the National League in 5 years. I feel like that's so true, and it describes him down to a T. The only thing about Bristol City that's stopping me putting them inside the playoffs is Tommy Conway. He is a great player, knows where the back of the net is. And honestly, if Bristol kept hold of him, I generally would be putting him in the top 6. But because of the rumours saying he's fallen out with the manager potentially, or forcing a move away, I feel like, that's going to be the bit that, sort of stops Bristol City getting in the playoffs. O'Leary is a good keeper. Taylor Gardner-Hickman. Manning is a great manager as well. He proved it last season, guiding Bristol City to a solid finish and playing an attractive brand of football. For me, though, Bristol City just lacked that final piece of the puzzle. Maybe they can get it in the transfer window, maybe not. But for me, Bristol City 9th place. And wherever Tommy Conway goes, he's going to score goals. I'm excited to see that. I definitely take him at Swansea, but a bit unrealistic. The clubs linked with him are Hull, Middlesbrough and Burnley. Whoever gets him have got a top striker on their hands. Into 8th place, you'll notice I haven't mentioned my team Swansea until now. In 8th place, I've gone for my team Swansea. Now, I am very optimistic about the upcoming season. I've seen fans of the Championship saying we're going to finish in the bottom 3, or as high as, not many people have put us that high. Probably the highest I've seen us put is probably 14th. I feel like that's hugely disrespecting the club. Luke Williams has done incredibly well over the transfer window to get the likes of Franco in. And let me just bring this stat to you. So the last 2 seasons in the top division in Portugal, so 2 seasons ago, most tackles in the league was Ugarte. He's been rumoured to join Man United, or if he has joined Man United by now, for 60 million. Last season was Goncalo Franco. And we've got him for under 2 million. So, that is very promising. We've also signed the likes of Eom Ji-sung, who in pre-season looks really exciting. Lawrence Vigorous as well, who hasn't been a number 1 since Leyton Orient days, but he was a solid player there. Always getting the top awards. And of course, a Golden Glove winner also there. Last 2 seasons, he's been at Burnley, hasn't played, but in pre-season, once again, he looks really good. Plays the way Luke Williams wants to play, confident with his feet as well. For me, as well, we were lacking a striker. Then we go and sign Bordeaux's Vipotnik, 22 years old. knows where the back of the net is, a big striker who's, going to be hard to defend against. I'm excited. I really am. We've lost the likes of Nathan Wood and Jerry Yates, but honestly, last season, neither of them were really good. But for me, Swans finish 8th. I'm really optimistic about the season. I'll put us in the playoffs, but I know the comments then will be absolutely fuming. So, Swansea 8th. We're going to do well this season. Everyone's been proven wrong. That's put us low. Swans are going to do well this season. Cannot wait for it. Luke Williams is a manager that really cares. You can see his passion. Speaking about the club, he gets really emotional. Swans are on for a good season this year. In 7th place, this is such a tricky position to put because the team I've put here, Norwich, I don't even know if they will finish this high up in the table, but there's no one else I feel like below them will finish this high up, if that sort of makes sense, without me being biased about my own club, of course. In 7th, then, I've gone for Norwich. They've lost Gabriel Sara, and that's a huge reason why I'm not that confident. Also, Johannes Hoff Forup has come in. He's only managed one season previous to this in Denmark, where the 35-year-old had a 51% win rate, which is good, of course, comparing with the likes of the Sunderland new manager as well. But however, both of them quite inexperienced and very new on the road of their managerial careers, of course. For me, it's not been the great window for Norwich, losing Sarr, of course. Bath's also out, and incomings have been very slow. They've got the likes of Josh Sargent up top, who he knows at the back of the net is, of course. Sam McCallum has been sold as well. But it's a decent squad that Norwich have. I feel like they'll definitely be in the top half this season. For me, 7th. Here we go then. There's 6 teams I haven't mentioned, but what order do I think they'll finish in? Let's go. In 6th place, securing a playoff spot, will be relegated from last season. I've gone for Sheffield United. Now, the big concern for me about Sheffield United is the fact that it's Chris Wilder. However, when you flip it on its head, Chris Wilder, is his club, Sheffield United, and he's done well with them before. He really did struggle, the likes of Middlesbrough when he had a chance there. But Sheffield United, once again, it's like a match made in heaven for the two of them. Now, Sheffield United do start, of course, on a -2 point deduction. But it's not a huge point deduction. They'll still be fine. They've brought in some quality players, likes of Harrison Burrows, Kiefer Moore, Callum O'Hare, who is incredible at Coventry, Sam McCallum and Jamie Shackleton. They've let go of the likes of Bogle, McBurney, Archer as well. But still a good squad. The likes of Gustavo Hamerson on that side as well. Really, really good. Souza in there as well. Brewster's still in there. That centre-back with an incredibly long name. Solid. I've seen them linked to Carl Rushworth as well in goal, which would just, put the icing on the cake and give him the title now because he's an incredible keeper. For me, Sheffield United, I've seen a lot of people as well putting them towards the relegation zone. It's not going to be that bad. When you got the likes of Moore, O'Hare in that squad, Burrows as well, you're going to do well. Harmer as well, Yeah, it's a good squad. Sheffield United will finish 6th. For me. In 5th place, I've gone for Coventry. They were really close to reaching the playoffs last season. 2 years ago, they lost at Wembley, of course, in the playoff final. This season, though, Coventry are looking a real force. They signed the likes of Jack Rudoni from relegated Huddersfield. Binks has come in, Brandon Thomas-Asante as well. They've let go of O'Hare, keep up Moore to Sunderland, and Matty Gunn to Charlton. It's a good squad, though, because, the only player they've let go of who's of real quality, in my opinion, at this level, is O'Hare. The other players you can live without and, drop them off or you're trying to get to the next level. And they've signed some incredible players. There's a lot of depth and a lot of quality. You can look at the side and they have a lot of players and say they've got a lot of depth. But the quality and depth that Coventry have is ridiculous, to be honest. Look at that strike force. Sims, Hadji Wright, of course, in there. Efron Mason-Clark, who we'll get to see now at Coventry, of course, signed in January and loaned back out to Peterborough. Brandon Thomas-Asante now as well. It's really exciting. At the back, even the likes of Joel Latabodier, who's a quality player at this level, probably doesn't even start now. It's incredible for Coventry. They're going to have a good season. A lot of people saying they'll finish higher than this. I think they'll definitely finish in the playoffs. For me, 5th. In 4th place, I've gone for Middlesbrough under Michael Carrick, and Michael Carrick is doing the right way, in my opinion. Not rushing off after one season to a top club. He signed a long-term contract last season to stay at Middlesbrough, continue the project. It's really exciting. They've brought in some of the likes of Bergzog, who was, of course, at Huddersfield last season. Luke Ayling brings experience to the back line, of course. However, they have lost the experienced Paddy McNair to West Brom. Roberts has also left, and Sam Silvera has been lost to Portsmouth on loan for the season as well. But much like Coventry, you look at this squad and it is stacked yet again. Emmanuel Latte-Laff up top, of course, is going to get the goals again this season. And for me, Middlesbrough finished fourth, an improvement on their 8th place finish last season. Middlesbrough onto something special sooner rather than later, hopefully for them. But, you know, it's going to be a special season when they go up. And for me, I think it's going to be this season. They are my playoff winners. In 3rd place, I'm missing out on promotion yet again. I've gone for Leeds United. I don't quite understand all the hype around them. Everyone in the prediction videos I'm seeing are putting Leeds top. I don't see the hype. They've lost, of course, Chrysinko Somerville, who was their best player last season. They've also lost the likes of Kamara and Archie Gray, 2 huge players in their squad last season. Also, they have brought in the likes, though, of Joe Rodon, who's one of the best defenders at this level. Rothwell, who was great at helping Southampton on their way to the Premier League last season. And Bogle from Sheffield United at the right-back position also has been brought in. Some good signings there for Leeds. They have, of course, lost a few other players that were out on loan last season, and they've sold them on for money, of course. But for me, Leeds, I just don't see the hype. It's a good squad. Daniel Farke knows the level well, but I don't see them winning the league or even getting top 2. I feel like there's 2 stronger sides this season yet again. It'll be very close again, but for me, Leeds 3rd for another season. In 2nd place, I've gone. It's between, of course, Luton Town and Burnley. Which way have I gone? Burnley. Burnley to finish 2nd. Now, the main reason for this is Scott Parker. He always finishes in 2nd place. He did it with Bournemouth a few seasons ago when they got them promoted, of course. Then he went to manage, I think, in Belgium in his latest job and didn't quite succeed. But of course, it's a good manager, a good appointment for them for the Championship. Maybe when they get to Premier League again, they're going to struggle again. Not the most long-term manager for success, but does well for the short term this season. They brought in a few players to add to the squad, which look really, really good. They've only lost goalkeepers as well, the like of Bailey Peacock-Farrell, Lawrence Vigouroux, Murich as well, and have brought in Haladki from Ipswich Town, of course, to add to the likes of James Trafford between the sticks. So it's a solid, stacked squad. Odebert in there, of course. Loads of quality players. For me, Burnley, they'll do well this season, very well in fact, finish 2nd. And my winners, the Championship for the 24-25 season, are Luton Town. Of course, Luton finished the highest out of the 3 relegated teams last season. It was a good season. They were very competitive on a lot of their games. They have lost the likes of Osho and Barkley and Ryan Giles, but it was only really Barkley last season that played a lot of the games. Osho's a great player, and Giles, of course, was loaned out last season. Shandon Baptiste is a great player to bring in from Brentford, of course, but apart from this, look at the squad they've kept together. The likes of Kaminsky in goal, Alfie Doherty, who that left foot is magic. Of course, we've got Chesig Bene, who was incredible last season in the Premier League. Mpanzu, Nakamba, Chong, Morris Adebayo, under Rob Edwards, who really does care. Of course, he signed a long-term contract to Luton very recently in the summer, so it's only going to be positive for Luton. They did really well in their business last season, going up to the Premier League, signing a lot of good players. So when they come down this season, they can have another strong season. And I feel like they'll win the league. We haven't even mentioned the likes of Woodrow or Jacob Brown, of course, who are talented at this level as well. Honestly, a really, really good squad. And Luton, for me, will go back up to the Premier League as champions. Also exciting news for them that they can have a new stadium soon, which I'm also looking forward to. For me, though, Luton Town, my champions. There we have it then, my 2024-25 Championship table predictions. My 1 to 24. You guys are not going to agree with them. But, of course, as I mentioned, let me know in the comments the team you support, where they're going to finish, and why you think they'll finish there. I've given my reasons there for every club. You guys are not going to agree with all of them. And as I say at the start of the season, you're going to hate me if I've put your team in a position you disagree with, and you're going to love me if I've put them in a place you agree with. Just don't take it to heart, basically. These are my opinions, my predictions. Let me know yours, and I'm, of course, open to reading all of them in the comment section down below. No one's right or wrong until next year, the end of May, so we'll all find out then who the real prediction champion is there. Also, mini prediction on the side. My championship goal and boot winner this season will be Carlton Morris for Luton. In matches of them winning the league, I thought they'd do really well there this season. If you have enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe. It really does help the channel out. And I'll see you in the next one very soon, guys. A lot of championship content coming your way over the course of this season. So stay tuned, have your notifications on, of course. And also a few prediction videos coming your way for the Premier League. We'll be ranking the kits very shortly. And game week 1 predictions for the championship will be out very soon also. Take care. See you soon. Goodbye.